Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's been a while. It's been weeks. I know. Welcome back to Kopi Chats with me, your host Waylene, where we're going to talk about interesting stuff in the news yet again. And I don't know about you. I'm happy to be back. I want to talk about this thing that has all but been forgotten. Um, do you know about this thing called the COVID virus? Because it used to be a big thing, but I think we've all moved on from it by now. And just in the news, yesterday, the United States marks 1 million COVID-19 deaths. Oof. They're certainly one of the hardest hit countries in the whole world, which is, I think, with 2 years behind us now, we can say that that's rather surprising because, of course, it's one of the richest countries, with very advanced healthcare system, but yet, one of the largest tolls in lives. But now people are seeking to move on, and you might think, yeah, it's about time. It's surely, the worst is behind us, right? Look at this. I highlighted this. 2 years on, life in the Big Apple is largely back to normal as residents attempt to put the collective trauma of the virus that killed 40,000 New Yorkers behind them. Yes, it's huge. It's huge. And you can see Broadway stage lights are once again illuminated. Tourists are back. Surely this can only mean that we have successfully fought the virus. The battle is won. That is what it means, right? That is clearly, absolutely what it has to be, which is why we can confidently open back up. So I did a quick Google search to see, what is the situation? Oh, here we are. Wait a minute. New cases still trending up. In fact, the new cases are higher than what they were before the Omicron variant, tore through all over the world. Huh, isn't that something? Because the same time, 6 months ago, you were told that it's so dangerous, we can't possibly loosen these restrictions. And then Omicron hit, and oh no, we're totally justified in keeping things locked down. And then now, as we see an increase again, suddenly all that indignation and all that, enthusiasm for lockdowns is gone. What happened? Now, my brilliant viewers, you may say, "Oh, Waylene, you're just being a real stick in the mud, real asshole." Because of course, the worst is behind us. The science tells us so. Well, that doesn't bear up. That doesn't hold up with this chart. But maybe this article has something to say about that, right? So let's continue looking at this article. New York's rebound has been aided by its high inoculation numbers. Right. I mean, that's certainly must be a big deal. I mean, of course, vaccinations, in my opinion, have been very helpful. Yet, we do see the cases increasing. In fact, more so than before all the vaccination was accomplished. Isn't that more of a worry? That is, if there was a certain level of infections without vaccinations, you say, oh, that's really worrying. But if those same numbers were attained with vaccinations, wouldn't you say, oh, no, that sounds way worse because the vaccination was supposed to, stop that from happening. But no, it turns out that to be not the case anymore. So yes, business owners fear for another wave of infections. Of course, everyone's worried about that. Recent weeks, U.S. has seen an uptick in the number of daily virus cases. Yes, exactly. Coincided with the lifting of mask mandates. Yes, exactly. So what's going on, right? What's going on? I think we are in a place where, psychologically, socially, and economically, people are largely done with the pandemic, said an infectious disease expert at New York University. And I would say, yes, that's true. And funny thing is, where all the leaders who were calling for, tighter lockdowns and, greater adherence to the protocols and locking down, until we can stamp out this virus. They seem to have gone strangely silent despite the increasing number of cases, which, begs the question, were they sincere? Were they truthful before? Were they correct? And if they were not correct before, would you trust them moving forward? Because there clearly has been no reckoning. There's nothing here in this article about what the leaders had done previously, and whether they're being held to account for the implications of their decisions, the policies that were put in place, right? Seems like we're all having a global case of amnesia about what happened. But amnesia doesn't, the amnesia doesn't extend to certain things. Look at this. The projections were way off, right? There were projections before. And here we go. Oh, this is the Orange Man. The Orange Man was late to back social distancing, repeatedly undermined the scientists, peddled all sorts of nonsense, blah, 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 blah. Orange Man, very bad. Orange Man supported vaccine research and so on and so forth. Why is the Orange Man being mentioned in this context? Like, surely he has nothing to do whatsoever with what has taken place for the past year or two, right? Let's see. Orange Man has been out of office since the start of 2020, and now we're in 2022. But we are still, referring to Orange Man about in reference to what has happened since then. How can that be? It's almost like the writer of this article wanted you to correctly sense that people are fed up of all the restrictions. They want to get back to normal life, and they want to remind you that, oh yeah, a lot of this horrible situation that we're facing today, just getting out of this mess. Now, a lot of that is due to the Orange Man. Like, he did bad things. He made really bad decisions, which is what got us here. It has nothing to do with the people who subsequently took over after him. It just reads that way. Can't read the mind of the author, but that is certainly what the author's words would seem to suggest. And the figures seem to back that up. Right? Now, I don't want to belabor that point, but look, here we are on the Wall Street Journal. I think the Wall Street Journal... Oh, sorry, I got to stop. Yeah, there we go. The United States National Bureau of Economic Research, here you go, published a paper studying the effects of COVID and COVID policies on the 50 states of the U.S. They were done by respected economists. I think I may have even have done the studied textbooks written by Casey Mulligan before. So economist Casey Mulligan, Stephen Moore, Phil Kerpen. So they compared COVID outcomes in 50 states based on 3 variables: economy, education, and mortality. It's a revealing study that belies much of the conventional medical and media wisdom during the pandemic. Now, this is in my opinion, this is really bombshell piece of research, but you've never heard anything about it. Well, let me tell you why. Now, the full paper is available for free. You can easily look it up. I'll link it in the description, which you can click on and just read the whole thing in as much detail or in little detail as you like. Here are the key takeaways. The top 10 in this ranking of good performance in the rankings are smaller states, with a notable exception of Florida, which ranks 6. Now, Florida, if you recall, or you may not, who knows, you may not have been paying much attention to the news back then. Their decision was to open relatively soon after the first lockdowns. Now, the mainstream media condemned that as cruel and destructive, right? And the governor, Governor DeSantis, was called Governor Death Sentence. The study ranks Florida 28th in mortality, right in the middle of the pack, right? 50 states, so about there. About the same as California, which it ranks 27th. Weird. Despite its far more stringent lockdowns and school closures. So Florida was one of the most strict states, locking schools down, keeping people in your homes, where Florida decided to be more liberal and say like everybody take responsibility for yourself, wear a mask when you deem it necessary. Okay, maybe indoors will encourage everyone to wear a mask. They never did have a mandate to say like it's absolutely compulsory. They did not, right? So, and how did it turn out? Well, their mortality, they were 28th in mortality, and California is 27th. So statistically speaking, there's barely any difference. Florida ranks 3rd for the least education loss, time lost due to school closure, and 13th in economic performance. California, on the other hand, is nearly bottom of the pile because its shutdowns crushed the economy, which ranked 40th out of 50, and in-person school 50th out of 50. So, Florida did about average on mortality, but it did far better in protecting its economy and keeping children in schools. And so the authors wrote in their report, the correlation between health and economy scores is essentially 0. We were given the idea that, well, you have to sacrifice some economic performance, to keep everybody safe. But the study shows that, there was no such sacrifice made. We cannot, make that kind of distinction. It doesn't suggest. The authors say states that withdrew the most from economic activity did not significantly improve health. They did not, right? The severe lockdown states suffered more on overall social well-being in return for relatively little comparative benefit, right? The bottom 10 of the rankings are dominated by states and the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. that had the most stringent lockdowns and were among the last to reopen their schools. So their economies are, for the most part, still behind most others in recovering from the pandemic. So this is quite a bombshell because we were told that we all have to make our sacrifices. We have to keep everybody safe, our neighbors, our parents, grandparents, and so on. And we would expect that, okay, now we're in this situation where regardless of where you are, whether you're in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, it appears that many people are eager to just get out of the country, go for a holiday, put all this behind them. But I would like to suggest that perhaps another thing we need to do is have a post-mortem as societies, as communities, as countries, to take stock of where we're at, how we got here, how did we do, reward our leaders if they made the right decisions, hold them to account if they did not. But it doesn't seem to be, I don't know, perhaps that's yet to come. Let's just take a quick brief look at Channel News Asia. They still maintain a table on their website, a homepage, showing the case count in 8 different Southeast Asian countries. Asian countries, I would say. Sorry, South Korea is not Southeast Asian. And you can see that total case counts are still, for the most part, higher than where they were before the Omicron wave. So we have changed our policies across the board, but it does not appear to be corresponding to the objective reality on the ground. What explains that? Nothing. In fact, okay, if I broke your brain there, and it's possible, right? If I think, but they've got to have a reason, right? There has to be. I can't accept that, they just decided that they've had enough. I mean, they have to take care of people, right? Yes, that's true. I would agree with that. But allow me to say this, not to bash on leaders all around the world, because I would reckon that they're trying to do their best. Like, they don't want this problem to exist any more than you and I, right? They're operating in a low information environment, having to deal with crises that appear for the first time. So they had to make decisions, in that environment. Now, that being said, I think it is necessary that they be given the confidence and the support of people to make those decisions, right or wrong. But then after those decisions have been made, I think it is important that there be mechanisms for people to agree or disagree with those decisions, so that as a society, there can be some sort of negotiation or push and pull to decide on a course of action that everybody, the majority, can go along with, right? Because it ultimately comes down to what people want, right? If there has been no, like a post-mortem or like a check, if we are told to just shut up and follow the orders or follow the decisions that have been made for us, then I would say that's wrong. And you may say, well, they maybe have access to information, and experts that we don't. I would agree, and that's definitely the case, right? Because they have a lot of very talented, very intelligent scientists, doctors working for them. But why not reveal that information, right? It would seem that if you're going to make a decision, you should share information so that the people you're responsible for understand. Now, also, let me share something that perhaps you hadn't really considered yet, which was that, look at this. Let me explain my point in terms of this report. We don't live in a world where the experts are unified in what constitutes truth, what is the correct course of action. Here's a newspaper report from the respected South China Morning Post reporting that there's a World Health Organization panel that sees potential benefits of some traditional Chinese medicine. Yeah, so this panel recommended that member states consider using TCM to help manage COVID-19, saying there's evidence that it's beneficial in some cases. Meeting was attended by 21 international experts. That seems like a lot, right? Including WHO reps and the members of the China Academy of Chinese Medical Sciences. Wow, probably very experienced people here, and with decades, maybe centuries of experience between all members, right? China's leader have given strong support to TCM. You would think that, well, if this is the case, surely this can be broadly accepted, and all the experts surely must agree, right? Because if the facts are there, the studies are there, you would expect that they would all come to the same conclusions, right? Well, you'd be wrong. The health sciences. So this is the Singapore Health Sciences Authority. They are the final word on drugs and medicine, and this is what they say. The HSA is aware of claims that this TCM medicine, Lianhua Qingwen, can be used to prevent or treat COVID-19. And they say to date, there is no scientific evidence from randomized clinical trials to show that any herbal product can be used to prevent or treat COVID-19. Dealers and sellers are reminded not to make any false or misleading claims that the products they're selling can prevent, protect against, or treat diseases such as COVID-19. So on the surface, you might say, oh, wow, it looks like they're two very, very credible authorities, the World Health Organization and the Singapore's Health Sciences Authority, and they come to totally different conclusions on the same medicine, which looks to be the case. Now, if you're sharp-eyed, you'll notice that they're talking about prevention and treatment. And over here, I believe that they don't oh yes. So they do talk about using it as a treatment, keeping the extent of disease low. Let's see. If I'm not mistaken, yes, they'll say those given the medicine recovered from their symptoms in a shorter time than patients not given TCM intervention. So one might say it provided symptomatic relief For instance, we take paracetamol for headaches. Nobody would say that paracetamol treated the headache, only that it relieved the symptom of the headache, or whatever else is causing the headache may still be there in its entirety. So that is if you're splitting hairs, right, about like what constitutes treatment, what constitutes prevention, what constitutes symptomatic relief, and if it is merely symptomatic relief, why is it a big deal, right? Why is it that the Health Sciences Authority of Singapore feels motivated and compelled to issue an advisory to say that this is not treatment, this is not prevention? Does it mean that? Well, it seems also that in the South China, this SCMP article, there's some Chinese doctor that say that there's something about treatment here. Maybe. So is there a great deal of confusion? I would say so. I think we can all agree on that, right? There is a great deal of confusion. Experts don't all agree on all the details. Maybe they differ. Their opinion differs on whether it's treatment, whether it constitutes treatment, whether it is effective. They can have different opinions on the data. There have been studies. I've Googled them. I've taken a look at them, but I did not take the time to read them in detail to understand whether the effect is great, whether the study was constructed properly. I don't think it would take me a great deal of effort to sort that out, so I did not do that. But suffice to say, there's not a great deal of agreement about the effects of this Lianhua Qingwen and other TCM medicine, and experts can and do disagree on what how to treat it, how to approach it, which now I can take back to the earlier topic and say, so we had 2 years of dealing with the virus, and we did various things like have mask mandates and stay at home, and have limitations on gatherings. Did they work? Did any of them work? Well, I'm sure they work to some extent, right? And then now when we lift them, is it because they no longer work, or they were never needed in the first place? See, that's a difficult question, right? Were they never needed in the first place? Could we always have been so, have the situation we have now? Possibly. And that is the thing that kind of bothers me. I think that there should be some reckoning about it, so we can learn, as a society, and not just to respond to fear. And I want to actually move on to another topic, but something that is still thematically aligned with what we're talking about. Check this out. Thailand's king has issued a recent decree bringing Asia's first medical marijuana law into force. That's a big deal, because if you follow news, you're a news junkie like I am, you would have heard that in Europe and the United States especially, attitudes are changing towards marijuana. It's being more accepted. Medical marijuana is very common, and there are many U.S. states where medical marijuana is available, and I think recreational marijuana is also available in some states. Medical, I think, is very widespread. Recreational, in some places. So this wave of acceptance it seems to have reached Thailand. Big deal. Could fully legal marijuana in Thailand be next after medical marijuana approval? Advocates push home growing. Big deal. Check this out. So the leader of Thailand's BJP party, I think that's associated with Mr. Thaksin Shinawatra, who's a former prime minister, Thai billionaire. This is his very popular party, and the current leader is a man named Anutin. Speaking in front of a full house of journalists, Anutin said, unlike alcohol and cigarettes, marijuana has great health benefits such as treating cancer, Alzheimer's, and insomnia. That's a big deal, and he is a high profile man. Does it actually treat cancer? That sounds pretty absurd. Now, I don't know. There are many types of cancer. So I won't go so far to say that's absolute nonsense, but it definitely stretches my credulity. And why am I saying this? Well, so here's how I want you to think about how I want to present this to you. That is, after 2 years, where we've been told, like, bro, the virus is so serious, and it's so terrifying. We've got to be so careful about it when we have to restrict our lives and our freedoms and everything. And 2 years on, oh well, yeah, you can go fly wherever you want now. Just show your vaccination status, and yeah, just go. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Even though cases are still pretty high, as compared to over a 2 year period, that this low level we're seeing is on the high side. But you know what? We haven't heard an scientific explanation for why it's okay, but it's okay now. So if you would take that skepticism, you have some skepticism. Now you take that to this to approach this issue. Hang on. So Thailand's also been historically, strict and about drugs, and has banned marijuana, years before. So is Thailand going totally bonkers and insane now? Like, are they going? Have they finally gone crazy after having so many tourists come over to ruin their country that they've actually jumped, like taken leave of their senses and just gone off the deep end? I don't think so. Maybe, right? So anything's possible, but it would be very strange, right? Yeah. Look, Mr. Anutin goes on to say, he says that he's adamant that his party will not join a ruling coalition against full legalization. So he's saying, we definitely support it, it makes total sense, rational, and I kind of believe him because he wants to win elections, right? He would not adopt a pro-drug policy if most of his country, and I think Thailand's a totally conservative country. So if he thinks that he can't get the conservatives on board, he can't get its conservative country to buy into his ideas, he would not be taking this position, right? Because he's talking about full legalization. He's saying, I won't work with people against this. I won't work with people who want it banned. That's a big deal. He says, we will not play any political games with marijuana. Wow. Amazing, right? Despite being surrounded by countries that feature some of the world's most draconian drug laws, in December 2018 became the first nation in Asia to pass legislation allowing medical marijuana and research. Medical marijuana treatment and research. Wow. So, where does this leave us in respect to the legal status of marijuana in the other countries, wherever you may live? Probably in Asia, right? Probably in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. So, where does this leave us, right? Because in these countries, it is still very, very illegal. And as a law-abiding person, I must say, I do not advocate for usage of legalization in any way, shape, or form. I am not. I'm only here to discuss this in the context of challenging conventional wisdom, because we've talked about the virus, we've talked about Chinese TCM, and now we've taken that one step further into medical marijuana. And again, we've been told so much about it. Perhaps it is time for us to be a little more skeptical. What are the actual harms? What are the actual effects? Does it actually have medicinal properties that are that justify the enthusiasm that we see for the herb, right? This article goes on to say, okay, Anutin's proposed some crazy sounding ideas like each household to grow 6 plants, and they can generate this much money. State agencies would buy the plants from the families, and this would really help the poor families in rural Thailand. So let's see. Already you can see that there are companies trying to get ahead of the market. Like you can see here, alarm bells have rung over patent registrations by Japanese and UK firms seeking to corner the market in some certain strains. So there's plenty of enthusiasm. Yeah, if this was a pointless plant, I wouldn't expect that there would be Japanese and British firms trying to corner the market. Yeah. So but I think that Mr. Anutin has certainly entertained some very bright ideas. Take a look at this. Oh no, sorry, that's not Mr. Anutin. This is Mr. Krusapon. Mr. Krusapon is a Thai entrepreneur who is talking to the SCMP about the potential of marijuana, and he's saying, I do believe the North American market would love to buy Asian products infused with marijuana. Can you imagine how popular cannabis dried mangoes will be? Yes, I can. Probably very, very popular. Here you go. And this guy here reflects the old-fashioned, in my opinion at least, old-fashioned stereotype about pothead, marijuana addict. I think that at least in California today, your typical marijuana user would be a white collar worker with a job at Amazon or something, smoking up on a Friday evening, to relieve his stress-induced headaches or something. That's what I think. I might be mistaken. I've never been to California myself. So this is very interesting. And I don't want to go on more about this article. I mean, you can check it out. I'll link it in the description. But the times are changing, and the times are also changing in my home country of Malaysia. So, Health Minister Mr. Khairi Jamaluddin has also called for clinical studies on the use of medical marijuana. I think he's an intelligent guy. He says here he wants a base policy on evidence. And thus far, there have been no full submissions for a clinical trial. I'm sure that will happen. So he says the health ministry has been consistent practicing evidence-based policies. I think he's a fairly forward-looking guy, follows the science as much as politics will allow him to be. So this is, again, an interesting direction for Malaysia to take. Here we go. He clarified that it's still controlled under the Dangerous Drugs Act of 1952, showing that, the law goes back that far. Let's see. So, what does this mean overall? I think it's good to see that there's there are different opinions floating around, and it's not the case that we all the countries around Southeast Asia are of one mind on drug policy. But it is not easy to accept, right? I mean, if you're looking at this and you grow up as I do, believing that, oh no, it's really harmful, this really throws you for a loop, right? First, we're told all kinds of things about COVID. You gotta wear your mask. You gotta stay away from everybody. And then 2 years on, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's fine now. You can go around. Oh, you had your vaccine. Yeah, and a vaccine will help. But yet we see, high number of infections. Oh, well, it doesn't matter so much anymore. It's okay. Go travel, right? It's fine. So shouldn't that strike you as weird? Yes. And then after that, I showed that there's no consensus either on TCM for treatment of COVID symptoms or relief of COVID symptoms, because the Singapore Health Sciences Authority doesn't want to call it treatment. They say that it doesn't treat. And then now here we are presented with new challenging question for our societies, that is question of medical marijuana. And Thailand's already made their decision. Malaysia is studying it. So again, I think this reminds us that we need to perhaps be a little more critical. Like, whatever, it is good to be skeptical of our authorities, our experts, and it's good to revisit, from time to time, what we consider to be like these sacred cows. Like, these are the things we absolutely cannot challenge. No, sometimes you would want to challenge them. Like, drug policy is a big deal, involves safety and life and death. But many countries around the world have shown that they can get something out of it. They can get commercial benefit as well as medical benefit. And the drawbacks, I don't think we even have to speculate. I mean, if you're looking at countries like Portugal, I think they decriminalized every kind of drug available. Their country did not fall apart. And the experience of many U.S. states. We're not just talking about the super, like liberal states like California and New York, but also a lot of more conservative states also decriminalized marijuana, and their experiences are available because we live in an online world. You can check it out. But of course, most of us don't. But still, we should be asking the questions of our leaders. And that, my friends, is what I have prepared for you today. Hope that it was okay for you. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. I'll be back to doing this as regularly as I can. Hope to talk to you again all really soon. You all have been terrific. I love you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.